really help us when it comes to boys growing up. And that is one of my worries, that for teenage boys now, they are so terrified of the consequences of putting a foot out of line. It's hard enough being a young teenager, working out how things are, working out how to do dating and all of that, without the terror that if you touch in the wrong place at the wrong time, you may find that your whole life is destroyed.
See, I
and there
like
is
that
far
terror.
too much. Well,
I like that.
As a
I
mother
think that
of a
men
teenage
should be
boy, I
frightened.
don't like
Really?
that
That's
terror.
the most malicious thing I've ever heard.
That is
I think that
awful.
men should be frightened
I think
to
you'd
touch
feel
women in a way
differently
that
if you
they're
were
not comfortable with.
But we're talking about
Yeah, but we're not
teenage
talking
years,
about. We're
children.
not talking about.
We're talking
but
about
it's an
young
interesting thing
children.
that you see. I would say that attitude actually is part of the problem too.
What's going on, everyone? Talks with Kenny here today. We're reacting to a panel about the Me Too movement and its effects on men. My first thoughts is I believe Me Too movement was started. I'll give it a fair assessment that it highlighted certain things that were going on in Hollywood, liberal Hollywood, that I like to add, and some of the things that have been going on in there. Now, what I don't agree with is a lot of women has been using this movement as some type of weapon, right? This is where you get to believe all women, believe her no matter what, even if she has no proof, no evidence, even if it happened 20 years after the fact. Like those kind of allegations, it open up the floodgates for false accusations.
Welcome back to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Revelations about disgraced movie director Harvey Weinstein's abuse of women sparked a global reckoning with predatory male behaviour. But 5 years on from what became known as the Me Too movement, there's a growing backlash. Some influential people argue it's become divisive, pitting them as sexes against each other with an assumption of male guilt, leaving many young men feeling marginalised. Recently interviewed two people at the forefront of that backlash, albeit with very different styles and rationales. He's psychologist Dr. Jordan Peterson.
People have been after me for a long time because I've been speaking to disaffected young men. You know, what a terrible thing to do that is.
To me, Jordan Peterson is the most authentic, honest person, public figure I've ever seen. This man is smart, bright. I don't understand how you can be controversial when you're speaking on facts and stats. Scientific literature, a lot of things he referenced in his talks are scientific literature. You can go look it up for yourself. But that's controversial? Object reality is controversial now? If he point out men or women are different and he gives his stats for that, that's controversial?
And earlier this week, I spoke to Andrew Tate, the so-called toxic male influencer who's now banned from social media. The full explosive interview airs tomorrow night, but here's a little taster of that.
I believe that confident, strong men who stand up and protect and provide for women are a good thing for the world and a good force for the world. And I don't think that I put a magic spell on anybody. I think there's a whole bunch of men in the world who understands my value. And if men grow up to be like me, you're gonna have a whole bunch of people with no criminal record, dedicated athletes, who protect and provide for the people close to them, are fantastic for the economy. And I'm certainly not the worst influence out here, Piers.
Yeah, I agree with everything he just said there. And Candace Owens has been a very advocate that, hey, we need strong men. And I agree with her. We do. Right? And Andrew Tate, regardless if you hate him or love him, he deserves to have his platform. Because when you can have terrorists on social media platform and not him because he says something that you disagree with, we have a problem in our society, that we care about feelings more than actual terrorist groups having access on social media. That's crazy to me. Because if you was gonna ban somebody, you should ban someone who's a terrorist. But you let the terrorists have a platform, but a guy that is controversial and has a different opinion about how men and women should live their lives, he got to get banned. Real to me, that's crazy. Feels before reals, I guess.
Well, clips of both of those interviews have exploded online. Literally millions of people have been viewing them. Jordan Peterson, for example, the whole interview has been viewed 5.5 million times on our YouTube channels, rightly or wrongly. There's clearly a huge groundswell of interest, at the very least, in their views, if not support. So was Me Too an overdue reckoning, or has it become a damaging battle in a raging culture war? Isabel still with me, plus political journalist Ava Santino, conservative commentator, a young man who agrees with Peterson and Andrew Tate, Connor Thomason. Connor, welcome to the show. Let me start with you. I found it very interesting interviewing Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate, both very controversial characters in different ways, both positioned as a kind of kings of toxic masculinity. I certainly didn't think Jordan Peterson was that. And when it came to Andrew Tate, I couldn't really conclude after 90 minutes of grilling him. I gave him quite a hard time. I couldn't really conclude what he had done that was so bad that he had to be expunged from social media life altogether.
He pointed out inconvenient truths and facts about reality, and it didn't jive with the liberal narrative that they want us to believe in, right? Women can have it all. Women can be career women. Women can be the leader of the house. When in reality, women don't want that. Women want a man that's making more money than them. There's a stat out there that most men still have traditional values. They still value what they would consider a traditional woman. So women are mad about this, and they, instead of trying to, meet in the middle and say, hey, where can we meet in the middle? How can we make it like bring the men more on our side? They want the men to change their to submit pretty much to this new liberal. Oh, you should like a woman that's able to have her own job, her own career, her own this, her own that. Because at the end of the day, men know it don't matter how much money you are. You're gonna be expecting me to pay all the bills. So why would I care about how much money you're bringing in? There was a study by the New York Post that they highlighted that the more money a man makes, the less he cares about money in his significant other. This is why I think liberal women are so unhappy, because they don't want to accept that. They can be like, no, that's wrong. They should think like this.
But it showed me the sensitivity around all this. And if any man now behaves in a way that looks like it's toxic masculinity, bang, they're expunged. Is in that process masculinity itself getting expunged and demonized?
I would say so. I mean, I'm sure that you'll have this experience with your own relationships, Piers, in that women, if you say something controversial, whether it's something on the Peterson side of the spectrum or on the Tate side of the spectrum, a little bit more explosive or a little bit more academic, some women are very much drawn to a man who can be a bit more confrontational, say exactly what he thinks. It's the verbal new version of what gladiators used to do in the arena way back.
Well, certainly, I think Ava and Isabel are laughing because they know that they're drawn to me in that way because of my combative nature. But Ava, you're smirking and laughing. I mean, there's a serious point here. A lot of young men feel they're getting disenfranchised by society. They're all being over-demonized, that any attempt to be the traditional male figure is now being rubbished and called toxic.
Well, I mean, if you really felt that and you really went out there and you were an alpha male, then you wouldn't be bothered about a bunch of women telling you that you were...
Well, you would if you get cancelled, like Andrew Tate.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it doesn't have a problem when there's a result that comes from that. Like, if you come and cancel me, or if you don't like my opinions and you come at my front door and you want to fight me, that's when I'm gonna have the problem. That's when I'm gonna have the issue. And I don't see why she can't separate that. And I've already seen that she's already trying to dismiss, like, oh, this is a non-issue. This is a non-issue. Because I guess she personally likes the Me Too movement. She likes the effects it have on men. Obviously from the intro, she likes it. So she's here already being like defensive. And to me, she's biased as heck. But let's hear her out.
If you get banned from
he's hardly been cancelled. He was on your programme, which is on national television.
But it's the only platform actually he's had for a long time, because all the social media companies banned him, literally banned him. He had his email gone, his Google gone, his Facebook gone. It all went down like dominoes.
Well, he's still on there, very, very prolific on there. I can't move for clips of him.
Yeah, but they're not generated by him now.
Well, but that's been for quite some time.
But should he be punished that way?
But what is...
All this is about freedom of speech, bro. Like that's all it really boils down to. Should opinions that you don't like be allowed on the social media platform? Because that's what free speech is all about. If you disagree with me, I agree with you that you have the right to disagree with me publicly. Even if you say something mean to me, you have the right to say that. I wouldn't care. But on the other side, if a conservative said something negative to a liberal, the liberal will use that as a means to have him removed from the platform. But I digress.
Punished. What is punished?
Punished is where companies take a decision which, in my view, in this case, was perverse, because they still allow, for example, the Ayatollah of Iran to have a Twitter account.
Yes.
So there's no consistency.
You saw her face. She was like, "Oh shit, that's a good point. That's a good point. Like, is he worse than a terrorist? Or are you trying to make the argument that Andrew Tate is worse than a terrorist? Let me know in the comment section."
Here at all.
Well, but however, we love a bit of free market. I'm sure you do, judging by that suit, which is lovely. But social media companies are private companies.
You're not objectifying.
Private companies until you want them to do something for you, right? This is my problem with the liberals. They will say it's my private company when they ban a conservative, or when they ban Andrew Tate. Oh, private companies, they're allowed to do whatever they want, right? But who was calling for Andrew Tate to get banned? The same liberals that said, oh, it's a private company, they can do whatever they want, until it's something you want to happen. Then that's when they're not a private company anymore. This is a public platform and he's dangerous to all of us. You should ban him. But it's a private company. They should be allowed to have anyone who they want on their platforms. Why should we remove him? It's a private company. If you're so mad at Andrew Tate's on it, go start your own and have your own public platform. No, you never. When you reverse the argument on them, it's always no. But it's always for us a very good reason why it had to go the way they wanted it to go. But it's never a good reason when it's the opposite. That's something I noticed. I'm just saying. That's something I noticed.
They can do
I'll
whatever
take all the
they like.
objectification I like.
Of course he will, yeah. All right, Isabel.
But Ava, your point about, if men were that alpha, then they wouldn't be that bothered by this, doesn't really help us when it comes to boys growing up. And that is one of my worries, that for teenage boys now, they are so terrified of the consequences of putting a foot out of line. It was hard enough being a young teenager, working out how things are, working out how to do dating and all of that, without the terror that if you touch in the wrong place at the wrong time, you may find that your whole life is destroyed.
See, I
and there
like
is
that
far
terror.
too much. Well,
I like that.
Does that sound like someone who's balanced? Is that someone that's, oh, I'm for equality? Does that sound like a woman that's like that? No. And this is where feminism gets the bad rap. And this is where I give you my perception on it, things. Feminism claim, hey, we're for equality. Okay. So if you're for equality, if woman gets drunk, men get drunk, they both have sex. Who are they both responsible for their actions during that time? You feminists will say no. The woman is not responsible for her actions, therefore she can't give consent. You're giving her special treatment based on her sex. So you're telling me that women are incapable of taking care of themselves at the same level as a man? Because when a man gets drunk and he puts himself in compromising positions, we hold him accountable for, hey, like, you played a part in this, sir. It's like we're babying women, and that's what I don't like. You guys claim you want equality, but yet y'all want special treatment. I don't know what it is. You're talking both sides out of your mouth, because you claim you want equality, but your action shows you want privilege. You just for women's rights. That's my definition of feminism. Based on their actions, they're only for women's rights and women's rights only. Because when they have a perceived advantage, they never go and speak in good faith and say, hey, it's unfair that we hold men more accountable for a drunken interaction than women when they both couldn't give consent. So it should have been a mutual mistake. No, y'all guys don't go that route. And that's logic talking. That's not my feelings. That's nothing. That's reasoning. Let's get back into the video.
As a mother of a teenage boy, I don't like
Really?
that
That's the
terror.
most malicious thing I've ever heard.
That is
I think that
awful.
men should be frightened
I think
to
you'd
touch
feel
women in a way
differently
that
if you
they're
were,
not comfortable with.
But we're talking about
Yeah, but we're not
teenage
talking
years,
about. We're
children.
not talking about.
We're
Yeah,
talking
but
about
it's an
young
interesting
children.
thing that you see. I would
A touch that they're not comfortable with. So what is defined comfort? Because end of the day, we can't enforce standards based on intentions. That's impossible to do. We only can do it based on result. Okay. See, you guys have to, when you create laws, they have to be very strict parameters around the law, or you'll find people that will use and abuse the law. And that's what we saw with in college campuses with Title IX, I believe, with grape culture, right? Grape culture. There's grape culture in college campuses when statistically a woman's more likely to be graped by a man she knows than a man she doesn't know. That means a stranger is less likely to grape you than someone you know. And most grape happen by someone a male figure in your family, whether that be an uncle, cousin, like crazy. And this is why a lot of rape cases, when women say, oh, I've been raped in the past, and a man asks her, why you didn't prosecute the man? Oh, I was scared to come out, is usually because it was a family member and the family was trying to tell her, hey, don't prosecute him. He's your cousin. Don't prosecute him. He's your uncle. And that usually what happens in most rape cases. And here's another tidbit that you may or may not have known. Single motherhood, these women are more susceptible to rape than any other different household, because obviously you're with a single mom. Single mom will still be dating. She's bringing dudes around the house. Dude might see you and be like, oh, I kind of like how you look, right? I'm just saying, because I grew up in the hood and I saw that a lot growing up. That a woman will be dating some guy, and then next thing you know, I hear the mom kicking out the girl because, oh, you're trying to get my man. I heard that before in my life. I know it's saddening to hear, but that's a reality. At least that's a possibility, but that's the case. I've seen that. That's a case people don't talk about. I'm wandering off. Let's get back into the video.
I would say that attitude actually is part of the problem too. That's to me toxic femininity. That is saying you should all be
To me, that's radical feminism, but I digress.
terrified, you men. If you put one...
Of assaulting.
Well, I think we all understand what sexual
What is
assault
an
is.
assault?
What Isabel's talking about is that young teenage clumsiness
really
in many
hard.
cases, which is now being recategorized as assault. Is that a problem?
It's not being recategorized as assault.
Look how she smiled, bro. This is just a resentful human being. Like, she's just so miserable that she wants everyone else to be miserable like her. That's how it comes across to me. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe I can't claim that. But that's how I feel about that. Like that's the first time I say I feel. That's what I think about this. That she just like, so? It's about the women. And that's how I see it. It's not about, oh, we're trying to do a common good for both sides. It's more like what women need, what women want, and just keep stacking the odds in their favor, keep making more rights, more privileges for them. I don't know. I don't know. What's the end goal with this? Let me know in the comment section below.
It's always been assault. It's just we're finally talking about it.
I don't agree with that.
That's ridiculous.
Teenage boy fumbling with teenage girl is not in most cases assault, is it?
Do you remember Aziz Ansari, right? Half the heels of Me Too, half the heels of Harvey Weinstein rightly being dragged through the courts, and it should have got way worse than just prison time, in my opinion. Aziz Ansari had a consensual relationship with a woman. She felt a bit awkward, and afterwards rescinded consent, and he was lumped in, and he had his career.
No, I'm with you on that one. I'm with you.
So then why should men be afraid of that?
Because he didn't touch her without consent, did he?
No, but she rescinded his consent, and she saw that.
How are young boys supposed to navigate this?
And how I don't know how long that story came out. Sorry, I forgot how to say his name, but the story he mentioned. How far away was it from the Harvey Weinstein case? I think it happened in the same year, and I already put a stain on the movement because everyone saw how women can use it for false accusations. Women can abuse this. The sympathy of people. Believe all women, that hashtag, there's a reason why they wanted it. Because they want to be at any moment, at any time, at any place. Based on how they feel. They can prosecute a man just based on the word, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to say you did this to me. And you know they'll believe me because I'm a woman. That's what they want. It's some type of exerting some type of power. And I don't believe that should be allowed. If you're about equality, feminist, that shouldn't be allowed to happen. And law should restrict certain things, have clear and defined parameters so people don't use and abuse the system like it has been going on in college campuses. Let me know if it makes sense. I think I do. Let's go.
Whole
Yeah,
thing. I'm thinking of my
to have-
teenage son. You know, he's 14, 15. What's he supposed to say? Would you mind if I put
Isabel,
my
you are an
hand- I mean,
extremely
come
strong
on,
woman. I
come
know
on.
in your house you're teaching them the difference between assault and then
Of
coming on
course,
to
of
someone.
course.
I know you are.
But what we're talking about is it's been very interesting watching the Me Too movement and the Time's Up movement, how it's all developed. Because a lot of very bad people, Harvey Weinstein and others, got their due comeuppance. We can all agree with that.
Yeah.
This is not even...
No one's going to mention the fact that Harvey Weinstein was a big liberal and an open feminist. And he was the one that this movement all generated from. Not the archetype of toxic masculinity, but it came from a liberal guy. Like when you think toxic masculinity, a feminist will usually think it's a conservative, like an Andrew Tate. But Andrew Tate got no criminal record. But this Harvey Weinstein guy, open feminist, liberal as hell, work in Hollywood. He's the one who got caught up in it. So yeah, I'm telling y'all. I feel like the left projects a lot. They project what they're guilty of onto other people. Gaslighters. I don't know. I guess, are the left professional gaslighters? Let me know in the comment section what you guys think.
Something to be debated. We're really talking about the grey line, right? Where is that grey line?
Yeah.
How do you navigate it? When you're an experienced adult and you've been around the block in many ways, you can navigate that much more intelligently and with emotional intelligence than you can if you're a teenage boy. And I think the point Isabel makes is a good one. I've had 3 sons in their 20s. I've always taught them to be respectful to women, and I believe they are. But I do think it's really hard for a 16, 17-year-old boy now in this environment to know even how to start
they are all
having kind of some
terrified.
kind of physical relationship with a woman.
Those good boys are all terrified. I know that from talking to my son. He's just like, I'm just not going there. Is that healthy?
Yes, I think it is actually. I think it's better to not have a physical relationship than to have one that could ruin a woman's life.
But then how do they ever start?
Well, don't. If you're not 100% sure.
That's analysis paralysis. Bruh, just based on her thinking here, this is how y'all, like, liberal women stay single up to their 40s, 45, because they're sitting here waiting for the perfect man. They're waiting for, like, the sons to come in line and show them, oh, you're the one. Waiting for Mr. Perfect. That's what it is. You're waiting for Mr. Perfect. You're scared to take risks. That's what it sounds like. And I think liberals, they value safety too much instead of freedom. Freedom, the cost of freedom is risk. You risk being hurt. You risk being vulnerable. That's the point of love. That it was a risk, is a give and take. You can't just sit there and be like, oh, the man has to prove himself completely to me. No, you got to prove yourself to the man as well. It's a mutual thing. It's a complementary thing. That's how I see relationships. It's a complementary. It's not about, oh, I get my way, you get your way. No. Hey, this is what I offer. You value what I offer. I value what you offer. We'll come together in our union. This is why the Bible preaches don't get unequally yoked. If you're a liberal, best chance of having a happy relationship is dating another liberal, marrying another liberal that thinks slightly different than you. But the core things you have to prioritize. Hey, what's the core things that I care about? Because at the end of the day, we all have strengths and weaknesses. We're not going to be everything to everybody. To me, soulmates are made, not given. Like you don't just become a soulmate. You have to make yourself into a soulmate. Hey, this is the kind of guy that she likes. Let me make myself into that kind of guy. So me and her, we complement each other perfectly for our union. Because at the end of the day, relationships take work. Marriage take work. Anything worth having takes work. And you want to think you're going to sit there in your little safe bubble? Oh, I'm not going to scared to take risk. How you know if you never start? And that's what Piers was saying. Hey, I agree. Hey, first time in my life, I think I agree with Piers here on this one.
Sure.
Are we going
don't.
for
What are you going to have? A bunch of neutered boys who never had...
So obvious.
We actually do have that. Gen Z is having far less sexual relationships.
And the way she got, I think she got mad because she was in the middle of her talking. And then, I don't know. Sometimes these like liberal women, they can come across weird to me. Because like the way they mannerisms and stuff, because you're talking. Sometimes you remember something, you just go, oh, she looked offended. That's to me, that's just my case. Maybe I'm reading into it. Y'all let me know. But she looked offended to me like, oh, did he just talk over me? Typical mansplainer, right? That's how I took it. But maybe I'm reading too much into it. Let me know.
Yes, they are. It's true. And young people have stopped having sex.
I agree with the first part of your sentence, actually. If you're not willing to have a sexual relationship with clearly defined lines, don't have one. And so I actually told my mates at
That's very conservative of him. Yeah. Dating with a purpose. Like, yo, don't go here. Oh, we'll see how it goes. That's how y'all getting caught up in this stuff. Y'all trying to see how it goes. And then you find out it goes to jail. That's what's going to happen. Like, clearly defined rules. I understand that. Because now men have to... This is the kind of risk that men... see in women. This is why men are frightened about, because it's you're proven, you have to prove yourself innocent. You're presumed guilty. You have to prove yourself innocent, and it's crazy parameters that we set for men. This is why you got Mike Pence having the I forgot what it was called, the rule. He had a rule where he can never be alone with a woman in the office because of stuff like this, and then women got offended about that. End of the day, You made the Me Too movement. It was all within your right. Men didn't complain when you started the Me Too movement, but you can't get mad when how men decide to respond to the Me Too movement. That they don't want to be alone with you because there's an obvious risk with your movement and you don't want to address it. So the men say, okay, we'll take it upon ourselves to address it. That's like complaining about a solution that I have, but you're not offering any solutions yourself. And that's what's going on here.
University. Don't sleep around with girls. 1, girls don't bring a guy home that you don't know what he's capable of. 2, guys, don't bring a girl home if you think that possibly she could have a false accusation against you.
Can I make another point here?
Which I find, I mean, look, that's sentence to me. When I was your age, right? How old are you?
23.
23. When I was your age, the idea you would even have that sort of thought process.
Yeah, I wouldn't have those sort of mates that would ever cross the line, so I wouldn't have to have that conversation with any of my friends.
Don't look at this gaslighter. Oh my God. Bruh. I see why y'all miserable, liberal. I see why liberal women are not satisfied with their life. Because if you were like that, who want to be around you? He was just trying to attack that idea. Now, I'm not going to be near those sort of mates. What? Why she automatically associated something negative just because it was a male. Let a man do that to women. You'll be like, oh, do you hate women or something? You resent women. Oh, who hurt you? That's what I'll ask her. Who hurt you? Why do you think so negative of men? What happened to you? Tell us your story. That's how I would have went. But I digress.
Don't throw my mates in with a bunch of violent people.
And is there a certain purity here I'm detecting in a certain type of feminist who thinks that they're all unimpeachable and that this is all one-way traffic and that only men can be toxic?
No.
No. It's a farce. If you it's a farce because see how she carried herself. Any kind of like point that my guy here pointed it out about, hey, this is kind of how men are perceiving the movement. She dismisses it. She said, no, that can't happen. That's not possible. We should worry about this. It's always infantilizing. Oh, women are babies. Women can't do anything for themselves. Women are not responsible for their actions. That's how it comes across to me. But you want equality, though. But you can't have special treatment and call it equality. That's not how it works. The reality is, if you want equality, both sexes have to be held to the same exact standards. That's equality. Now, if you still want the privilege of being a woman, then you're not asking for equality there. But I digress. I'm probably rambling on too much.
No,
Because I've got to enlighten you. I've met quite a few women in my life who are pretty toxic themselves, and I don't see the debate being framed around that at all.
No, but the point is that we're still in a situation where only 5% of rape cases actually even go to trial,
Which is ridiculous.
But that's the extreme end of it, isn't it? You're talking about rape here.
But Ava, we can all agree that's wrong. We can all agree that's wrong.
But okay, so even on the extreme end of it, rape doesn't even go to trial. If you're assaulted, and that is life changing.
Yeah.
What happened to Rose McGowan
Yeah.
with Harvey
I
Weinstein?
know Rose well.
Was
Yeah, but these are
life
extreme
changing, and
things.
she didn't get her comeuppance.
Yeah, but Ava,
She
we'd
lost
all
her
agree
career.
about that. Well, I think what has sent a shudder through all of our spine.
Yeah, using the worst case scenario to justify the whole movement that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about gray areas like, hey, what is the defined parameters for sexual assault? We obviously know what rape is. We already know that's wrong. We know that already. She's talking about that only 5% of the cases gets prosecuted is because I would look into the data and ask, okay, what are the times? How long did it take for her to come forward? Because a lot of evidence goes away when you wait too long, and it becomes a he said, she said thing. And this is where the believe all movement paradigm comes from. But then in the day, you open up for liars, people who are false accusators, to come here and use the movement, hijack the movement for malicious intent. And that's what you don't want happening in your movement. And that's what men are scared of, the malicious actors. But the women have no concern. Oh, no woman will do that. No woman will lie about such a thing. Like, women are perfect. Like, women can do no evil. I know, hey, look, men, women, we all are flawed. We're all capable of evil. I don't put nothing past anyone. So to sit here and act like, oh, women won't do that. Oh, women wouldn't do that. I saw a lot of high-profile rape cases that was televised all around America about how college athletes did this. A college athlete did that. 5 years down the line, he was found. The woman was found to be lying. Boy lost 5 years of his life. That's what men are scared of. But I digress.
From your mouth today is the line that all young men should be terrified of any physical contact.
Someone.
Well, no, you didn't say it like that.
Say that.
You said basically of starting any physical contact with a
Unless
woman.
you're sure.
Well, how does a 16, 17-year-old boy know?
When she can rescind consent on something completely nebulous.
Okay, can I ask you this? If you were going to take someone to bed and you weren't 100% sure that they wanted to go to bed with you, would you go with them?
No, I would not do that.
Then
But
that's
the point
what I'm
was,
talking
Aziz
about.
Ansari.
But be more vocal about it. Because how she frames it to me, and maybe this me just misunderstanding what she said, but how she framing it to me is as if she expect the man to like read the woman's mind and find out, oh, she don't look comfortable, oh, she don't look like. But end of the day, let's say how the guy's situation played out. He went to the apartment with her. He walked. She let her in the house. He brought her in the house. She came in the house. They started kissing, whatever, and then they proceeded to do what adults do. And then after the fact, that's when she felt, oh, I felt uncomfortable. I felt like I was pressured into doing it. No, don't. Like, women, this is the part of equality that you're not gonna like me telling you. But as an individual, if you don't like something, you have to be vocal and say, hey, I don't want to go along with this. Hey, I'm done for the night. I'm gonna go. Right? But you don't go into, because end of the day, you go into this is the mixed signals. The lady in the panel alluded to earlier. You go into the room and the dude's like, oh, you're in the room with me. A man and a woman at night, they just finished having a night out drinking in a bedroom together alone. You like the setting is like, yo, that's where you have to be vocal, because then you can assume, assumptions can be happening there. And especially if you don't like show any resistance, the guy would think, hey, okay, you're going along with this. That's just my take. This is what I'm talking about, personal responsibility here. Certain things, hey, if you were forced into, that's another thing. But if it's something like, hey, like you didn't object to it until after the fact, like my guy here pointed out, yo, that's regret. But you can't prosecute someone based on regret because you made the conscious choice to go along with it. I'm just saying. I'm just pointing it out. Don't shoot me. I'm just pointing out what I see in reality, or what was based on information I know. That's all I'm doing.
Story was Shaw, for example, and then later she went and published a long piece about how she regretted it and lumped him in with Harvey Weinstein.
I mean,
is that okay?
Ava,
Ava, do you feel any of it, Ava's gone too far? Do you think the pendulum has gone too far at all?
No. No, I don't. I don't think it's gone far enough, actually.
Of course.
Really?
I don't think we've brought anything into schools. To your point, we haven't brought any teaching into school about what is assault, what isn't. If you're worried about like 16-year-old boys not understanding what it is, bring in sexual health lessons. Teach it.
The idea, sorry, the idea that you can teach rapists not to rape is insane because they already know.
What do you mean?
That it's illegal. Okay, right. You're saying if boys wouldn't know what's assault and what isn't.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. The idea that rather than taking the power out of someone who can make a false accusation is what they're actually, most of them are concerned about.
Yes, I'll be all for the Me Too movement. All they have to do is, hey, make sure you clear out the laws, make it clear and defined, so that way false actors, right, malicious actors, don't go in and use the movement as a weapon against people they don't like because they don't like. You know, get me? Don't let these people come in and misuse the movement for their own malicious gain. That's all we're asking for.
Specifically, my friends, for example, who would never dream of doing something like that. But then what the feminists fail to understand is you can educate evils. Did you not identify yourself as a feminist?
And even, she getting triggered for no reason. He's not calling you a feminist, ma'am. He said the feminist. He's trying to make a general statement. And she's here getting effeminate. Effeminate.
Feminist study?
No, I didn't actually.
Oh, okay,
Piers
sorry.
called me
Piers
that.
You're not a
did, so then
feminist?
that's...
But Piers labelled me.
Actually, I called you a toxic feminist.
Okay, then if that's my
I'll take
presupposition,
that.
that's
Yeah, of
wrong.
course.
Fair enough. But you cannot, if a rapist is willing to violate the law so violently, you cannot teach him out of that. All you can have is very harsh punishments to deter
No, because
that.
you're talking about the grey line, and the grey line is at parties of not understanding that when a woman is so inebriated that she can't stand up, boys need to understand that is
Well,
no.
that's the difference.
See, that's what I was talking about. This infantilization, like a woman can do all the bad decision making she want, but it's up to the men to hold themselves accountable and make sure they don't do anything out of line. When she's the one who did something, you put yourself in a vulnerable position, and if the malicious actor comes in and take advantage of you, you expect people to come in your defense. That's not how the real world works. To me, I'm like, I'm not entitled to anyone's help, anyone looking out for me. Most men know this. Hey, I carry myself responsibly. I make sure, hey, I know my limits when I drink, so that way I can drive myself home. Women don't have that cognitive. They think, oh, someone's going to take care of me like a baby. Like, oh, someone's going to look out for me. Someone's going to prevent bad things from happening to me. The whole point is we're trying to argue, hey, women, mitigate risk. Don't put yourself in compromising positions drunk. If you know you're going to be drunk or you know you're going to have a good time, go with some friends. But to put that ownership like, oh, let's teach men not to grape thing. When at the end of the day, there's always going to be bad men out there. And your stuff will work as long as you're around good men. But what happens if you find the off chance you're around bad men? That ain't going to work. You're going to leave yourself vulnerable with no recourse to defend yourself. And this is the irresponsibility that I'm talking about. You becoming orderly. You're talking about strong and independent. Y'all depending on good people to be around you. But all of a sudden, women can't, or when women are drunk, they can't give consent. Okay, what about the men? It's selective standards. But feminism is for equality, right? That's a lie. You see? Like, that's what I'm talking about. Your actions show you something else. You're only about women. You're not about men. If you're about equality, you will say, I'm an equalist, not a feminist. That's my take.
Now you're bringing in something else. Ava, I would like to know whether you accept that women, and particularly teenage girls and young women, sometimes give out pretty mixed signals. They give out mixed messages. They're not even sure what they want at any given time.
I think we're victim blaming.
I don't think
I
that's
think
victim
we're-
blaming.
Come off
So
it,
do you
I think we are
accept?
straying into
Come
a
off
point.
it. Every sinew of your...
Bruh, every time she gets challenged on her, like, when people bring up their concerns about this movement or about feminism in general, oh, you're shaming, you're victim blaming. Oh, it's always... I can't stand that sometimes, bro. I really can't. Just attack the idea. Don't try to deflect. Don't try to move the goalpost. I don't know, man. I just think we're overly catering to women at times, to their detriment, I might add. Because we don't do this to men, and men are able to do things on their own. Everyone's always, men can just do stuff, and no one questions them, no one asks them, because no one cares. No one cares about men like that. They care about you, and there's a trade-off with that. I digress.
Your body knows what she just said.
Do you
has a
accept
merit
women
to it.
can sometimes
It's a woman
give off
saying it
mixed
too. Come on.
messages? Come on, they
Look,
can.
I mean, sure, but
That's
I'm
a
not.
non-denial.
But I'm sure,
Yeah.
but I'm talking about assault.
So how
here.
are you
No, but
supposed
I
to?
don't think any of us disagree about assault. We're talking about the far greyer line of young teenage fumblings.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. No one's arguing. Everyone says sexual assault is wrong, it should be prosecuted. Everyone says rape is wrong, it should be prosecuted. We're talking about a specific thing, and she keeps trying to bring it back to those two things. The stuff that people on the panel and me already agree with. But she don't want to address the elephant in the room, which is the gray area they were talking about. How do young people continue on dating? And it proves to me that Me Too movement made dating harder for men and women, especially for Gen Z, because they're having less sex. There's evidence for that. That's the result. I can't cast narratives. I can't put assumptions, but I can know what's not happening. Sex. And usually how you get to sex. Dating. Come. I hope I'm making sense. Let me know in the comment section, guys.
If they've all stopped having sex, it's because they are actually terrified. And I think it's a great shame if they're terrified into actually having no physical interaction with opposite sex.
Exactly that. And then the
How do we
other
get
point,
past
can
that?
I make one other point, which is this whole thing of dredging up allegations that are 10 or 20 years old, I think is absolutely awful.
Why?
Because it's a he said, she said. It's
Isabel.
impossible to...
That's reality. You have to acknowledge that. You wait 20 years, all the evidence is gone, right? The person probably never did it again, and now you want to bring it up. It's like too little, too late. I understand it sucks, it happens, but yo, we can't leave the gate open for anybody, because then everyone's gonna make up claims, drum up claims. Oh, the person become a political judge, Supreme Court justice guy. Let me pull this out of my butt. Thank God he had the notebook and he listed down every damn thing he ever did, or else he would have got prosecuted for that. And this is the concerns men have, that a malicious actor will come in and just be like, hey, I withdraw consent from 20 years ago. No proof, no evidence of him forcing himself on you, nothing. It becomes he said, she said. This is why they push so hard for the believe all women narrative. Intentions, but look at the result. The result is you let bad actors, bad people use it for bad purposes. And it will cast even negative shadow on people who comes forward for sexual assault. Because then people will be like, well, she got a gain for this. You get me?
To prove, and there are people whose careers and their lives are completely ruined by allegations that are brought a decade or more after the event. Now, obviously, if the person was a minor at the time of the incident, or the alleged incident,
I
then
can't believe you're
fine.
saying this,
There
that we
be
shouldn't
a
bring up historic assault claims.
I don't
That's
think-
absolutely
I don't
crazy.
think you should be bringing-
Women who
I
would have been
don't-
too afraid to confront it at the time because they
Why?
were too young or too powerless
I
to
said
bring it
about-
up in
I
the
said
first
about-
place.
See,
If
I would actually side slightly with Ava here, in the sense that I don't have a problem with historic crimes. For example, Harvey Weinstein, they're all
There's gotta be a
historic.
cut-off
yeah, but,
point,
yeah,
hasn't
well,
there?
has there actually? For someone
I
like
think there
Harvey,
has, because it
for someone like
depends
Harvey
on the
Weinstein,
evidence.
should there be a cut-off point, or should the victims?
The law should apply equally. If we're saying, hey, no cases past a certain period of time, hey, that's the case. Because at the end of the day, we could, like I said, we could all look back and be like, oh, maybe she was gaining something out of it. Maybe it was a tick for tack. Like, hey, you sleep with me, I'm going to give you more opportunities. And maybe she benefited off of those opportunities. And maybe later on, she regretted those choices and then she decided to prosecute him on there. End of the day, it was consensual, right? Or was it not? It was not? Okay, then he goes to jail. But to me, you open it up for people to question it. Oh, you waited 20 years after your career is washed up, then you want to go prosecute him? Your allegation had more weight at the time that it happened. And that's the argument people are trying to say. That's the reality. The sooner the better. That's my thing. Because at the end of the day, you let this guy victimize other women because of your lack of courage. That's the reality. That's the reality. Yeah, I understand your feelings. I understand that. But that takes courage to stand up. And you didn't. And you let him victimize another person because of you. You could have stopped it earlier. You could have been a hero earlier. That's my take. That's my take. Because then if I was victimized in that way, I would have done that. Because I wouldn't want that man to do something like that to someone else. If it was like a gay pedo, whatever, I would have spoken up and say, hey, look, this happened to me. This happened to you. I'm trying to prevent. That's how men would think of it. But I digress. Let's continue. Let's wrap this up.
Who were all bullied and scared
I think it
to come
depends
forward, right?
I think it depends on the severity of the allegation. Obviously, if it's something,
Right.
it's a rape case or something. But if it is he put his
All right,
hands on my knee.
You're talking about the journalist movement.
I'm
the
basically-
journalists that bravely came forward and told about how cabinet ministers had touched them inappropriately on the knee, which was horrendous.
I'm not
Yes.
bothered about touching on a knee. I mean, 20 years later?
Yes,
that
but
someone should be dragged through the courts for
entire
that.
sexual harassment culture that is in Westminster and is still really pervasive at the moment.
Well, the good thing is we've all reached complete agreement after 5 years of the Me Too movement. But it's interesting, isn't it? So we've got lots of different views here. It is complicated, I think, and I would argue but maybe a man shouldn't argue this at all. But I would argue the pendulum may have swung a little too far. You don't think it swung far enough. You probably are on my side. You probably are too. But I'm not sure we should really be taking sides either. It's a complex minefield.
I don't think it's as complex as people make it out to be. I just think it seems like women have to, this is a challenge for women, I guess. Women have to be a lot clearer about what they want in a relationship before anything sexual or any touching things happen. I think they have to be very upfront now. And I think this is very difficult for women because women are used to men interacting, men initiating. Now it's time, it seems like with the Me Too movement and all this, it's time women start initiating now because this is the quality y'all want. Y'all can't want only the good about equality. Here's the bad. It's on you, women. You want a relationship with that guy? You go talk to that guy. Because at the end of the day, the guy walks up to you and he does something and you perceive it as sexual assault, he'll get prosecuted for it. So it would be better if you go and approach the guy. That in all this, if women start going approaching men, because then men don't feel threatened like that. If you touch a man on his bicep, he's not going to be threatened by your touch, and he'll automatically know, oh, that's a more overt way of knowing, hey, I'm comfortable with you touching me. If you touch him or you're interacting with him, he's going to be like, oh, she likes me. So it's easier for that to happen than if the guy went up to you and he's trying to figure you out, but he takes all the risk. You get me? Then it don't sound fair to me. That's all I'm trying to say. But let me guys know what your thoughts on in the comment section below. Do you agree, disagree with my take? Let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next one.